there are times still at my age and where I am in life and what's going on, where I am back in the Gatropolis here in the 10,000 miles studio at my desk, and I'm tweaking stuff and I'm working on things, and I'm working on, communications to clients. I'm working on marketing and promotions. I'm working on strategies to help a customer, but it's not work. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hey, special episode alert. I got somebody I just met. 24 plus years ago on the episode with me today. Marc, how you doing today?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
That's good. If you don't mind, I'm going to introduce you. I love telling your story.
Okay.
It's
a lot easier for me when you.
It's an epic story. It's an epic story. So I met Marc while I was the CIO of a company called SIB Mortgage, and Marc's sister worked at the company, and asked if we had any summer work for him because he was looking to spend a little time away from Utah at the time. And I said, yeah, he can come out. He's a young guy, right? Find something for him to do for sure. We got a lot of work going on. We're very busy. And here we are 24 years later. We've worked together ever since that moment. Mm-hmm. We've had really no breaks, right? Of opportunities. We went from SIB to Aurora Loan Services, from Aurora Loan Services to, which was Lehman Brothers, to Bear Stearns, EMC Mortgage, and from there to JP Morgan Chase, and from JP Morgan Chase to Nation Star, and from Nation Star to Cash America, and from Cash America right here to D&M Enterprise Group. I mean, that's it's pretty epic. And it's been, for anybody listening, there's a lesson here for both sides of it. I was in leadership positions and was moving on to new ventures. And when you do that, you need a couple of friendlies in your corner. Somebody who's going to tell you the truth, somebody who's going to tell you the good news, the bad news, and you go in and everybody's on nice time. So Marc was always very much a secret weapon of talent. And Marc always took the next role, and it didn't matter what he did in the past. It was like, he was just a guy that could figure stuff out and get stuff done, and really, built a great ability to execute over the years. And part of my responsibility in that was to make sure Marc got a raise every time he went. He did better and he did better. And ultimately getting to a spot where he's joined the entrepreneurial side of us for the last 9 years. And I think Marc's going to have a good storybook ending with us here. He's turned into quite the formidable, I don't even know what to call you anymore. Sales engineer. You're not a sales guy per se, but you do sell technology. You really help people, create solutions for their business, right?
Yeah, that's what I love about it. I mean, kind of always have. I mean, the biggest thing with the roles, just never saying no. I could have said no. I don't.
Yeah,
I've never done that before. I don't know if that's a fit for me. It was always sure.
That's what I loved. That's what I loved about you, because you had the same stupidity I did. Yeah, I could do that.
How hard could it be? My wife always says that's what she's going to put on my tombstone. Is when I pass away, is how hard could it be? That's what she's going to write on it.
That's why I wanted to chat with you today. It's the topic I really wanted to cover, and I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about this topic with, because you and I are really a lot alike in many ways. I think I told you this the last time I saw you. I said, you were probably much like me, the guy who came from behind and people didn't expect to maybe have the skills you have or be as successful as you've become and have the runway that you have. When I think about your age and where you're headed and where you're going, your trajectory is unbelievable. But, self-taught guy, right? Very little formal training, if any at all. I had a little bit of formal training. I went to a school to go to get my Novell certification. It was months, not years. Yeah. I did a little bit of college. You did a little bit of college, right?
The whole 3 months of it, one whole semester.
Yeah, okay. I doubled that. So I got twice the amount of college you have, Mark. So,
and all the classes I had training for, I don't do any of that. And I never did any of that ever with those trainings. All those certificates and all the things I did, I never actually used them. One time when we the WebLogic administration, when we first got to Chase.
Okay.
I did that for about that 6-7 months. And that was probably the only class I actually take that fit into a role that I was already doing.
When I was coming up in technology, the credentials really mattered.
Yeah.
I just knew that if I could go out and become early on a Novell certified administrator and then become an MCSE was like a gold standard at the time.
Yeah.
Just remember, this was in the days of NT 4.0, right? And, we were migrating from Windows 3.11 to Windows 95 and 98 moving on. So an MCSE was a big deal. There weren't a lot of people at the time going for it. And when I did it, I did go to school, but really in order to pass those tests, I had to teach myself.
Oh, yeah.
You could not absorb all that stuff. And I remember we sent Danny Barbero to the 10-day boot camp. Yeah. And he was like one of two guys that came out of it with an MCSE, right?
He had a lot of experience before too. So that's a lot of that test was just applying knowledge because the questions of that test were always just slightly skewed to where if you didn't actually understand what you were doing, you couldn't answer the question.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about, I want to talk today about teaching yourself, and I'm going to ask you some questions. I mean, what is it about, it's funny you said, I guess I can figure it out. What was on the tombstone? How hard can it be? Yeah. How hard can it be? When did you come up with that? Like, how long have you been saying that? When did you realize that the keys to the kingdom or the answers to the test were out there? And what means and methods did you use to get them?
Sure. It's not my slogan. If you ever watched Top Gear, there's a British personality called Jeremy Clarkson. Okay. And that was like his thing. He always said, how hard could it be? And I remember the first time we were watching an episode of Top Gear, it was early 2000s or something. And he said it. Okay. And Becky, my wife, just turns and looks at me and goes, really? Like, how hard can it be? She's like, that's you right there. How hard can it be? Because I've always kind of been this way. Like, I've always been I've always liked to read. I think a lot of it came from my dad, because my dad would always do new things. Like growing up, he was always trying something new, or he was always trying to do something else. He was always reading. He was always learning. And that's kind of what he instilled in all of the kids. But I think I picked up on it the most. My problem is I'll learn something, I'll get good at it, and then I'll move on to something else. I've never stayed with something to where I'm like, I could say I'm an expert. Like I've spent, like a musical instrument. I've never just sat there and like, I learned how to play the drums, and then I'm like, oh, I could do that. And then I did something else. Yeah. So I kind of like, I've had to like now as an adult kind of say, I got to focus on things a little more but as a kid, I would pick something up. I would learn it. I'd be good at it. I would move on. I'd get bored with it.
Yeah. But you know what? There are two schools. I mean, you can be narrow and deep.
Yeah.
And you can be wide and broad and fit in conversations in most any room.
Yeah.
I think especially for what you're doing right now, wide is
technology.
Is the ticket,
Yeah. And a lot of that comes with just comprehension. My wife and family always jokes that I'm the brain. It's your brain. It's this. And I'm like, it's really not. Like I have this ability, and I've had it from a long time, is just the natural ability to learn something.
There's a term for that, by the way. No, I'm dead serious. I'm not kidding. It's called metacognition.
Oh, okay.
Metacognition is the ability, I'm going to read it right here. It's your ability to think about, monitor, and control your own thinking and learning.
Yeah, that's
right.
My whole life I've been that way.
Like in preparation for this episode, I was like, what is it called? Like, what's the neuroscience behind somebody? And I was popping away, and this thing came up. I went, bingo, that's it. Yeah. Metacognitive awareness, knowing, metacognitive regulation, doing. What else did I say here? Why is it powerful? It helps you learn faster with less wasted effort. Mm-hmm. You avoid false confidence. You transfer knowledge to new situations, and you become independent from teachers or courses, right?
Yeah.
This is a gift. Not everybody has this metacognition, the ability and the drive and the determination that's required in all of that. So, hey, how hard could it be is a bit of your mantra, but you know what? I mean, I love that, because what you've done is you've released yourself of the fear, right? You just basically said, hey,
and that was the
I'm
hard
done with
part
that.
too, right? Because I would always learn a lot of stuff, but I would never really share it. It was always one of those things like, if someone didn't ask or wasn't out looking for something, I wouldn't just openly say something. So I
Give me
think,
an example.
well, I mean, it just, in all the other jobs we ever had, like I would learn how to do something. I knew how to do it, but unless someone came up and specifically asked me, or unless we were troubleshooting something or like there was a problem, I would never just offer the information because I never had a need to. I was focusing on my job doing something, but I would know I could sit in a conversation, listen to what they were talking about. I'm like, I could help you, but didn't really assert myself or jump in there, but kind of those, I did it all the time.
What do you think? What do you think drove that? Was it a lack of confidence? Was it
probably a lack of confidence? I think it was probably more lack of people skills, and just not even people skills, but the wanting to have those people skills. I think that's probably what's changed with me in the last 4 or 5 years. Is that ability to talk to people, just for the sake of talking.
Really,
I was never. It's just my
man,
mom
a few words.
Yeah, my mom was like, "Oh, it's just a Jorgensen thing," and I just chalked it up to that. It was just my life. Like my grandfather was like that. My dad was like that.
So funny. Labels matter
that way. Yeah, it was just the label, and so I was just kind of
labels matter.
I never had to. Like I would just sit in a room and I would listen and I would do stuff, but I would never be the one to jump out or be in the front of something or say, "Hey, I know how to do that," or do these. Or I just as a kid, a teenager, no, even as a young adult. I mean,
I'm glad it was before you met me because I was about to apologize for taking up so much space in our friendship and our work life. But, now that you're telling me it goes way back, and it's funny, because as a kid, when you're told, hey, just who you are, you almost lose that that introspection, that self-regulation or that self-awareness. That's a term I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It says, hey, I do this, but I don't want to do this, and I want to do something else, and I want to do that.
Well, for a long time, I did want to do that. I was very self-aware. I knew exactly what I was doing.
Really?
And it was just choices. Like I look back at some of the years and all the roles and things that we've done, and I think if I was a little different during those, I probably would have progressed a lot faster than I did. I think I held myself back in some of those things. Just because I wasn't willing to put myself out there in some things because I just didn't want to. I never liked it. We had reviews or we had this and after to talk about it, I hated it. I still do. I'm not a big fan of talking about myself. It's just one of those things. It's just I've just been this way. It's just but now I see it as I'm not talking about myself. It's not we're selling ourselves, and that's the one thing I've always looked at is I think you said it to me before because I used to say I'm not a sales guy. We're always a sales guy. You're always selling yourself. I never really took it to heart until these last couple of years, and I come like, it's not really that bad. Like going out and meeting, talking to complete strangers and things like that. Like I would never have done that ever.
There's a difference between sort of getting out there and puffing yourself up and telling everybody how great you are and being a complete jerk. And I can understand why nobody would want to do that. Heck, I don't want to do that. And I'm often, because I do like to talk to people, because I do engage pretty easily.
Yeah.
I'm monitoring myself through those conversations to make sure I'm not taking up too much room.
Yeah.
I'm asking as many questions as I'm offering feedback on, Yep. And that's my thing. Like I know that about me in that. And it's funny, I thought we were going to talk here today more about talking about our technical skills and how we learn things. And we're going to get to that, but this is super interesting. I didn't expect us to get here today. I mean, this awareness is key, right? Yeah. This awareness is key because no matter what role you're in, and you know this as well as I do from all the people we've worked with in all the corporate gigs over the last 24 years, all the clients and customers we go into, there is always somebody who could use coaching in this topic.
Yep.
How you communicate, how you put yourself forward. And it's funny because there's always some curmudgeon out there and other people making excuses for that curmudgeon. Oh, he's just this way and blah, blah, blah. But it's so off-putting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's off-putting.
In some cases, because you look at people and you're like, what's so wrong with changing? Like, just because you were that way doesn't mean you have to be that way.
Yeah.
Like at some point, you've just decided that I don't want to be something else. This is the way I am. Just accept it or don't.
Change is uncomfortable. And, I did a podcast on change that I released this morning because, I've got the book on change coming out. I'm super passionate about it. But change, man, has so many different facets to it. So first of all, you said a couple of things that may or may not be true. So first of all, when somebody recognizes something in themselves that maybe makes them feel slightly uncomfortable, the immediate fork in the road happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Down the right lane is, I don't feel good about it. Well, that's sort of where the Y intercepts. I don't feel good about it. The right lane is, it's just me. And that's me. And recognizing that I don't like it and needing to change means there's something about myself I don't like. I'm sure if we got, Jordan Peterson or somebody who knows psychology much more than I do is going to run down a path here and tell you about all the things that come in. To the left, down that path is from the why, hey, there's something about this me in this moment I don't like, and I want to seek out and go to that journey. That road's got speed bumps, gravel, broken glass, nails. It's got everything on it. It's not a smooth road.
It's not.
But when you get to the other side, the road gets 10 times as smooth as it does down the right side because that road runs out of lane.
Well, and then it's
limiting. It's flat.
Because it just turns into the same road over and over again. And you have the same constant struggle. You have the same back and forth with yourself. It's just this constant losing. And you can see it. You can recognize it in people. You can tell someone it doesn't mind change or accepts it. And then someone else that this is the way it is and it has to be this way and it can't change.
Yeah.
And I have a friend that's this way. It's who he is. It's
Yeah.
who he's always been. I'm not going to change for you. I'm not going to change for anybody. I've just been this way.
It's so unfortunate.
And in some cases of it, I get it. And in some cases of it, I'm like, man, you're holding yourself back. And I think that's one of the bigger things that I've realized is it's okay for some of this stuff. It was a lot of uncomfortableness having to talk to people and be outside of that shell. That was my fork in the road.
Yeah.
And I always went back to it. I don't want to. I don't need to. I haven't needed to yet. And
I'm technical.
Yeah,
I'm an individual contributor.
Yeah, I've always, I could lead a team. We don't Cash America. We had guys. I knew how to focus on my guys and lead the team, but it was never that next step because I was not thinking about those things. I didn't want to. It was very uncomfortable. And so having to go through some of this life, personal things, not even work things, I've had to really change and be like, you know what, it's uncomfortable, but being uncomfortable is not worth staying stuck.
No.
And then once you get over it and you look back, you're like, really? That's what I was so worried about this whole time?
The episode I released this morning, I said, there's a magic to the uncomfortableness.
Absolutely.
And that's the moment you instead of turning that into fear and recognition of fear, the unknown, the old FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you turn that into the catalyst for growth. You go, oh, yeah, I got this feeling again. This means something cool is about to happen because I'm going to come out on the other side. Why? How hard can it be? You know? Exactly. And sometimes it is hard, but you just keep chugging, whether it be learning a new technical resource, et cetera. Yeah. Back when you were learning new things before you had, clearly you've been on this personal journey a long time, but when you were learning the technical things and you said, how hard could it be? When your wife said that to you, oh yeah, Top Gear, hey, that's you. How hard could it be? Like, did you put that into play like the moment you got into technology with me? Or is this something that you realized and that came along and then every time you figured something out, it was like, oh yeah, I was right. How hard could that be? Yeah. Next one.
A lot of it was just the wanting to learn, getting into computers, especially at the age I did. Yeah. I mean, I was 19, the early 2000s. Computers were still relatively new, unlike, you got 9-year-olds running around with iPhones that know how to code on an Mac. Like that's just, you didn't have that back then. It was hard. It was harder to come by things. I mean, we still had dial-up internet before I moved to New Jersey, for crying out loud. Like, some of those things. So getting out there and then having access to that internet, because now I had a job that paid well, did some other stuff. Yeah. I had cable internet. I had access.
Could have been like our coworkers showing up at 2 a.m. to use the internet. We'll leave it there.
We didn't leave it there. I didn't have to do that. I got to go to my own house.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a lot of things. Like even nights when I would go home, I was learning Linux. I built firewalls on old desktops running Linux. I was just in there just tinkering and messing and just doing stuff to just learn, because not so much that it was tied to the skill and what I needed at work, but it was, I had access to these things now and I understood what they were and I wanted to learn more about them.
Yeah.
And so it was finding stuff on the internet or books, the Danny Barbero, the guy, all those
resources,
guys had resources and they had books and they had knowledge. Here, read this book. Here, do this. And some of those technical books, I mean, they're this thick and
I know.
They're hard
I
to
used
get
to have them. I was going to say I still had them, but I had reams of them.
Yeah, I had big totes before we moved to Utah. I had Becky's like, "What are you doing with those?" I'm like, I guess I'm throwing them away. Because, I mean, a lot of them were old anyways, but I had them in there because if you ever had to go back and find something, I knew where it was in the book.
Yeah, I hear you.
I never read a book end to end, but I would focus on something that I wanted to learn, and I would learn that piece of it. And then I would just have the ability to retain this information. And so I'm able to go on to something else. And then if I need to, I can come back and, recall that and go back to that and say, oh yeah, I've done that before. This is how you do it.
These big thick books were cool because I liken it to, tell you a story about my dad. My dad was a self-taught guy. He learned a lot of things on his own. He could fix electronics and repair TVs and other things. And he ripped it apart. You shot me a picture, you soldering that cap across that chip to get the drive to work again today to get the data off of it.
Yeah.
Like my dad introduced me to all that stuff. We had the Lafayette kits, the Heath kit stuff. We were building stuff. My dad was into cars, not as a collector, but he just didn't want to be at the mercy of the gas station or the dealer to fix his own cars. And this is before cars had computers. So you really could get in there. And there's if you knew how fundamentally how engines worked and what the parts did, you could troubleshoot and make your way around a dozen or so parts and really deal with a lot of maintenance on your own. And there used to be these books started, I don't know, maybe in the 50s or 60s, but they were called the Chilton's Manuals.
Yep.
Dude, they looked like an encyclopedia, and it was a book just on your car.
Yep. We had them all for every car we own.
Every car, right? And so the cool thing about it was my dad didn't read that book like he was sifting through, a novel or the Bible or something. Well, the Bible, a bad example. Bible's probably read more like the Chilton's Manual, right? But he'd be like, oh, there's a problem, sounds like this. And he'd go through and then a detailed picture of exactly how to disassemble it, reassemble it, all the torques for all the bolts, all the set, everything you needed to know was in, and he'd focus on that section. And he'd have that book open on the fender of the car.
Yeah.
Or he'd read it enough in advance to go, I got it. And he'd jump in. And that's what I found early on those technical books were for. I don't think I read one of them page to page, but you had to go through them and learn certain things and then refer to them. Hey man, I remember working and having a Novell server crash in the middle of lunch. And I had to refer to my school books to rebuild it real time. Took me an hour, but everybody thought I was a hero. Yeah. Because prior to me being there, I had to call a consultant and maybe he'd show up in 2 or 3 days and fix it. But I rebuilt it, restored the data, got everything going. We were up and running, and I was continuing to run the restore during the day while people were up and running. And so their files were appearing in their file shares, and people were like, it was a miracle, It was great.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, I was the same way. My dad, it was never the the wanting to learn some of that stuff. It was necessity. Growing up, he got hurt on the railroad, so he was medically, disabled to do some things. And so money was always tight growing up. And so fixing things was the way to survive. We fixed the cars all the time if they broke. If there was something wrong with the house, we'd fix it. Toilets, electrical, I mean, you name it. When I say that the breadth of knowledge is far and wide, I could do a lot of things. From house maintenance to car maintenance to computer, like whatever it is, like I know how to do it. So I always get teased, and my wife always jokes about it. She's like, because I'll take the car to the shop. Well, why don't you do it? I don't want to. It's what I had to do growing up. I don't have to. Yeah. I don't need to, so I don't want to. Yeah. If I had to, but I don't have that.
I still find little things that will tick me off that I just take on, like the dumbest things.
Yeah. But I have friends that do it all the time because they love doing it.
Yeah.
And they're like, why do you take your car to get oil changes? It takes 10 minutes.
I know.
Yeah, but I don't have to.
Because I don't know what to do with the oil when we're done.
You just take it to a store and give it to them. AutoZone, I guess. They'll take your used oil.
I told you about the time that Alex called me when I was away and said, "Hey, the headlight on my truck is out." Said, "Okay, if I make an appointment at the dealer." And I told him, "Absolutely not."
No.
And he's like, "What?" I said, "Get on YouTube, look up the make, model of your truck, and look up the instructions on how to change that headlight. Go to O'Reilly or AutoZone, buy that headlight, put it in yourself." He called me in 1 hour.
Yeah.
He immediately found the YouTube. He's like, "Oh, this is ridiculously easy." He brought a few tools with him. He drove out to AutoZone. He bought the light. He put it in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay. And he called me so proud of himself and said, "I can't believe it. That was $29. I said, "What do you think that would have cost at the dealer?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "A minimum of 200, because at the time the labor rate was 150 or north, plus the parts, plus tax. That thing would have been between $200 and $250. And here it is, less than $30. But he also got the satisfaction of going, "Wow, that's cool." And it's a blessing and a curse, by the way.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. My dad knew how to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, sometimes if you look up and there'd be something wrong with the ceiling in the house, and I'm like, we're going to hire somebody to fix it? No, I can do that. But, working a full-time job, working a side hustle, comes home on the weekend, wants to have a little downtime with the family. I'm not fixing the ceiling. So he never got to it. So you sit there with a hole in the ceiling or whatever. You sit there with a hole in the ceiling, and because, he didn't want to pay $250 or $200 somebody do it, because he could do it himself. And so my mother had to look at that for years.
Yeah, no, see, I don't have that. There's spots that if there's something that needs to be fixed, I'll fix it. But if it's
I hear you.
a cosmetic thing that can wait, I'm absolutely that way. Like, that's not doing any damage. It's not out in the front of the house. No one cares. It might be something in the backyard, something at the door. Like, I'll take care of that. And so there is some stuff that I will do with that. But, it's like any other thing else. If you leave a problem too long, that problem becomes way worse. And
did you ever take on learning new things specifically to raise your stock, to raise your value in organizations? Did you ever say to yourself, if I learn these things, I know I'd be more valuable?
Yes, but not from a technical standpoint.
Okay.
Because a lot of times, I would learn stuff, from the technical standpoint to know how to do something. And I always figured knowing how to do whatever it would be that I was working on, whether I knew the specific spot of it, like the WebLogic administration.
Yeah.
Or the Linux piece of it. I was learning Linux while I were there, on top of the other stuff. And I'm like, well, this has a need for this piece. So I would love to learn that piece of it to be able to incorporate that on top of it.
Yeah.
I would do that. But most of the time, especially as it got later on, the Nation Star or the Cash Americas, it was more about learning the people side or leadership tactics or some of those things, not so much technical. I still would do things just because I didn't want these guys to, not have a clue what they're talking about or have them be able to explain it to me, because I always liked being a technical manager as well, that I could know how to do it, but be able to give it to someone else to do it. And then I still know how to, so they could come ask questions, or if they needed help, or if they didn't need help. And then at least if they got done, I knew it was done and I didn't need to think about it anymore. And so I would always kind of learn stuff like that just behind the scenes or at night or during the days with those things. Like networking. I learned networking when we got to Cash America. Just because I was responsible for the network team. And now I had 15 guys that were doing all this stuff, and I'm having meetings with them. I got to know what they're talking about for some of those things. So I had to learn a lot of that.
Really know networks.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I wanted to learn more initially. It's funny because I'm just thinking about us being the same, but also different. Like the leadership stuff to me came natural. I was raised by natural leaders.
Yeah.
My father could command a little audience. My grandfather, the same. They never led very, very big teams, but they were always like people followed them.
Yeah.
They were leaders. And so I felt like that was a bit in my DNA. And I was a study of it. I loved watching other leaders, emulating the things I liked, discarding the things I didn't. I became a study of it. But I knew very, very early on that teaching myself things that were about technology would make me more valuable. I knew getting that MCSE would get me an engineer's job somewhere. And that would be the breakthrough into me getting into technology, having some foundational skills, knowing, domain services and and server architecture and things of the like would be a kickoff for me. Then I taught myself how to build websites.
Yep.
And back in the day when you were writing HTML, and then some of the WYSIWYG tools came out and made it easier. And I danced around in Dreamweaver and Fireworks and a little bit of Cold Fusion and quickly got out of that. But now the tools are so easy and web-based, you could make a reasonable site and infuse HTML and Java and things of the like in it. And you don't even really have to know how to write that code. You just have to how to prompt, an AI engine like ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or something, and get and embed that code into the site because they allow you to embed code in for certain functions and things. So, but all of those things for me were like, oh, I could be more valuable. I could be this guy. But when I latched on to the leadership path, when somebody basically said to me, hey, you're in charge, I knew innately that my desire to be deep in tech was going to fade. And I'm going to have to pick up these other skills, leading people, managing people, understanding personalities. You got 10 people, you need 10 leadership styles. I mean, it's crazy, dude. I mean, I was talking to a guy I got coming on for my 100th episode who's led battalions. Okay, wow. I'm going to leave it there. I'll tell it, just talk it out. I had on a guy, he's a Major General 2-star. Wow. Matt Smith, 2-star general, career military guy. And he was the guy in the episode. He goes, you can't have one leadership style. He goes, because people are different.
Yeah.
And he goes in the armed services, there is a way, but your job as a leader, and this is where we sort of met together. I said, your biggest job is how to influence people to get things done and to buy into the mission. And if you can't get them to buy into the objective, the outcome, the mission, or whatever you call it, that project is going to fail. That mission is going to fail. And everybody's going to need a little bit of different flavor of that. So hence, you need a lot of different leadership styles. And I learned this way too late with my kids, by the way. I was like, I'm the same guy. I raised them all the same. Why are they so different? And then Coach Tony said to me, you dummy, that's because they're all different. And I go, well, where the hell were you 27 years ago?
Yeah.
You know?
I learned that. I've been a different parent for all 4 kids.
Yeah, so have I, big time. And they resent you for it, by the way. It's like, oh, you let so-and-so get away with everything. I was the crash test dummy,
I've told her that the oldest, I've told Maddie all the time. She's like, she's like, well, what about this? And I'm all, I didn't know what I was doing then. I hate to break it to you. You were the guinea pig. I'm sorry. She's not. And I know better now. I'm like, listen, I don't know what to tell you. I was learning as you were learning. And so, they've kind of repeated. I'm like, and that's just the way it is. I always tell them too, I've never been a teenage boy. I've never been a teenage girl, but I'm a teenage boy. So I understand that side of it.
Oh, yeah.
You were feeling some of that stuff. Listen, I can help trying to guide you. But some of that, I just don't understand. I don't understand it, how you're feeling. I don't get it. It's just
what
the way
tools,
it is.
Let's flip around here. What tools today do you use to learn? I know the short answer, but what tools today do you use to really learn and solve problems?
Well, I mean, it's still the internet. I've always used the internet. Google whatever. There's always forums. Someone else has always done something or seen something similar. The worst is when you're like, I'll just, someone's got to have this problem, and no one's ever had that problem before. Like, you search for
rare
data,
though. It's
and
rare.
you're like, son of a. But when you figure it out, you're like, oh, this is great. And sometimes I'm like, I should go post that. I'm like, nah, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, nice guy you are. I'll love to leverage somebody else's hard knocks, but now that I figured it out, I'm going to leave everybody onto their own.
It depends how long it took me to figure it out, how frustrated I am. But now the biggest thing is AI. Like, and I know
my gosh, so easy.
And I had a conversation with Sophie the other day, and she's like, I'm like, just use ChatGPT. Well, Dad, that's cheating. I'm like, it's not cheating. Don't ask for the answer. Give it the instructions and have it teach you how to do it. You have a tutor in your hand about anything you ever wanted to learn. And guess what? You can say, I don't get that. Repeat it to me. It'll repeat it to you. Guess you could do that 300 times. And that they're never going to get annoyed with you. They're never going to be like, you're an idiot. You're not getting this. What's wrong with you? You can keep going back and forth. Explain it to me a little different. I don't quite get it. Help me understand this a little more. I'm not quite getting it. And it'll change its mind. It'll give you a different answer, and it helps you learn it. And I tell them that all the time. I'm like, you guys literally have in the palm of your hand the answer to anything you ever wanted to know. And not only know it, but learn it. Like, I struggle with math. but I don't. I'm never going to learn math because I don't need to do head math anymore. But they're doing their math homework. I'm like, have it teach you how to do this. I never had a parent or a friend or a student or a teacher or anything like that I could say, hey, I don't understand this.
Right.
Without sounding like an idiot. Because they look at you like, you really should have known this in like third grade.
Yeah, totally.
I'm like, man, I never focused on it. And so, but now you have that tool to be able to go out and ask it that question.
Well, that's an interesting take rather than saying, what's the answer to this equation?
You never learn if you just get the answer.
No, you could say, hey, I have to solve this equation. And I really want to learn how to do this on my own. Walk me through the process to figuring this out and solving for this equation. And you can repeat. So it's how you use the tools.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, my go-to for learning things right now are the AI engines.
Yeah.
I've got a pro subscription to ChatGPT. I've got one to Grok.
Yep.
I've got one to Claude. We've got Gemini with our O365, right?
Yep.
I've trialed Perplexity and things like that. And then I'm on the edges a bunch of other AI things for video and music and audio and all this other stuff. But there's so much information. And, I love when Elon Musk says, not in the too distant future, you're going to have PhD level information at your fingertips. And I'd say we're getting pretty damn close to it.
Yeah.
I always do say, please cite sources.
Yes.
And then I look at the source. And if it's like, joesgarage.com, unless it's about cars, I don't consider it a good source.
Yes.
If I'm getting my psychological advice from Joe's Garage, maybe it's a guy's opinion from a website that got scraped or Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok. But, if I get a Harvard Business Review, if I get an Oxford study, if I get something coming out of Stanford or any university that's, vested in deep research, and then you unpack the research and it's a, blind study, a peer-reviewed paper, or, you could really dig into it and go, okay, I have good information here. And gathering that information and really, learning how to do things is incredible. And, even the most common things, I was doing a little troubleshooting out at the Double L, and I had a problem with thermostat out there.
Yeah.
I just took a picture of it. Click.
Mm-hmm.
I said, tell me the make model of this thermostat. Tell me the wiring diagram on the back. What does each wire do? Where's the control? What's happening? And give me 3 troubleshooting steps if the thing won't light up.
Yeah.
And boom, it's this make, it's this model. This is the hot. This is the fan start for the heat. This is your 24-volt supply. It's coming off the furnace control that's in the back of the unit. And it's like, it was like a map to the buried treasure.
Yeah. Anything and everything. And
That's crazy.
I had a conversation with someone for one of the companies we're consulting with, because she was like, what should I get into? Should I learn automation? Should I learn scripting? What should I do? And I'm like, understand the basics of it, because you have to be able to ask questions. Right. I'm like, you don't need to go out and learn how to script. Don't go spend hours and hours and hours on how to write perfect scripts and do all this stuff. Understand it a little bit, but then you have the AI piece of it that you can go have it write the script for you, but understand the pieces of it and learn from how the script is being built and where it's doing. But you don't have to know the syntax of the code. Like, you just don't need to know how to do those things. You have to understand it to a certain extent. Yeah. But you have to be able to prompt AI to be able to give you the answers.
Yeah. And the last prompt should be, and write a test script to validate that the initial script is executing properly. And what's the defensive code? How do you deal with errors, exceptions, things of like? I mean, you put all your parameters in to say, I need a script that does this. I need defensive code. I need error handling. I need to be able to deal with, and make sure it is free from malicious attacks, and prompt, and you're going to get something pristine out. And then you're going to get a test script to validate that. It's pretty remarkable. Yeah. It's getting better and better, by the way.
It is. And it always will. I mean, it's a continual learning thing. The more people use it, but I mean, you look at how fast it was adopted. 100 million people within the first month of it being used.
Yeah, it's crazy. Fastest adoption ever.
I mean, ChatGPT. But a lot of people don't use it the way that we use it, right? They go out there and they're looking for that answer, or they're looking for it. And in some cases, I think that's where the fear of it comes in, and people see it, that it's doing all these things, and then because they don't quite understand what it can do or how to use it in that way. Because we can use it in a way that we're learning from it. And so we aren't dependent on it. Like, I could still do some of the stuff. I could have ChatGPT help me do whatever it is, but I'm learning it along the way. to where I'm keeping someone entertained. But I always come back to the Einstein said it, that I never have to memorize something that I can easily find in a book.
Right.
And so depending on what it is, I still view some things that way.
Yeah,
Like I'll help something, I'll read something. I don't need to remember everything about it, but I remember, I know how to get there.
Yeah.
And I know where to go to get to it. And I know where that information is.
Yeah.
But I don't have to retain that information.
Yep.
So it's like just little catalogs, little shortcuts to things, but getting into there and seeing them that way. So that helps me learn. I don't know if that's a normal thing.
No, that's cool. Hey, the last segment here is I want to get your take on this. For me, and the reason why teaching myself or learning on my own was so valuable to me is because I never viewed this learning. When you go to school, you got to get there at a certain hour. You got to be there for a certain amount of time. You got to work through a very certain curriculum. You're tested on that curriculum at the end. And because you get a good grade on that test, somehow you are able to execute on that curriculum. Maybe not, right? Maybe you're just a good test taker. Maybe you're not a good, level heads up thinker. Maybe you are, but experience comes in. You have the basis to build experience and get that.
Yep.
There are times still at my age and where I am in life and what's going on, where I am back in the Gatropolis here in the 10,000 mile studio at my desk, and I'm tweaking stuff. And I'm working on things, and I'm working on, communications to clients. I'm working on marketing and promotions. I'm working on strategies to help a customer. I'm working on the podcast. I'm tweaking the lighting. I'm tweaking the background. I'm looking into gear. I'm booking, exchanging emails after hours with guests to book new things. But it's not work,
Yeah.
I love like, if you told me I'm going to test out 5 microphones today, and I'm going to start at 7 and I'm going to end at 2 a.m. because I'm really going to, I'm going to put up a scope and I'm going to really listen to the waves and I would freaking love it. Like I love learning this new stuff. What value it has at the time, sometimes you don't know. But then all of a sudden, the way the universe works, whether you believe it's the universe, Buddha, God, whatever you think, all of a sudden these things present themselves and you're like, holy cow, now I know why I had to go through that.
Yeah.
Why I did it, why I learned it. Look what's become handy to me. You could never fail learning new things.
No.
It's always going to come back around where you go, wow, that thing I learned 20 years ago. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
I got that.
Yeah. Even back stuff with kids, learning how to fix a toilet, plumbing stuff, just little things. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's where I think that's why I've always liked learning. I have this just innate, insatiable appetite to learn new things. I like change. I've learned to embrace it. I was just joking with Bailey today. I'm like, it's time to pack up and move across the country again. Where are we going? I'm like, I don't know. It's just something.
I'll meet you in Tennessee.
Just get this urge to uproot my whole life and go do something because I liked it. It was a new place, like moving to the States that we did and doing the things that we did. Aside from you guys, I didn't really know anybody. You know what I mean?
Neither did I.
So it was just one of those things to be able to go somewhere and to learn. You had to learn a new state or a new city. Everything was new. And then I love that about just everything that I do. I like new things. I like to try things. I don't like to try certain foods or certain activities. There's things that I know that I'm going to stay away with.
You've come around though.
Yeah, I have come around, but I've come around, but I like to learn. I like to read. I like to do things. I like to search the internet. Sometimes you're scrolling through the internet, like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm just reading an article. Why? Because why not?
Yeah. I hear you. Hey, let's wrap on this note. What would be the one thing you'd say to people about their desire and or their fear of self-learning? Like what would you say to somebody who's wondering if they can really teach themselves something or redefine themselves anyway?
It's that uncomfortable in saying no, because you can tell yourself no. Saying no, I don't want to do that to yourself is just as limiting as saying no to someone else that I don't want that role or I'm not comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
We can find ourselves stuck in that way that, no, I don't want to have to learn that, or I don't need to learn that new skill. And it's a very limiting thing on yourself. And the way you talk to yourself, completely changes your life. If you sit there and say, I hate this, or I'm not good at this, Yeah, you're never going to be. And learning's the same way. Oh, I hate to read. I hate doing this. Well, guess what? You're going to, and it's not going to help you do anything. And so, it's the way you communicate to yourself. I mean, that's how I look at it. No one else is going to force me to do something or to learn something or to read something. I have to want to do it. And sometimes you have to force yourself to do it because you know it has to be done.
And you know why? How hard can it be?
Exactly. How hard can it be? What's the worst that happens? They always get joked about it. If I have a project, I go to Home Depot 5 times. Well, because before I went there, I didn't know how to do it.
Totally.
And now I can go back and do the same thing in probably one trip. I don't need it up. But now it's just that learning and that process and that trial and error, how to get to something. And then once you figure it out, you're like, great, now I know it. I'm never doing it again, but I know how to do it. I don't want to have to do it.
It's funny, Mark, I used to watch my dad try to overthink projects.
Yeah.
He would want to be so prepared that it would delay the start of a project because he wasn't sure, like, I got to rip down this wall and I got to do something to it. But he was trying to figure out, like, if he had an x-ray machine, he'd want to know what's behind the wall.
A hammer.
And to me, I'd be just like, a hammer and a sawzall will tell you what's behind the wall. And if it's a problem, we'll deal with it at that point. Like we'll figure out a solution for it. It's not like we're going to not figure it out. It's a house. Like we're not wiring brains,
Nope.
Hey man, cool conversation today. We could go on for hours on it, but thanks for jumping on with me, man. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. It's a good time.
Talk to you soon.
See you, man.
Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.